I love her wallpaper background. I think I need to get that in my office.
Target, peel and stick, super easy.
That's the easy part right now. I'm like, yes. All right, Miss Les, if you want to go ahead, the floor is yours.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Elisha. I've been with NRG, oh my gosh, I think almost a year now. I was with Bridge Realty prior to that, and then I got licensed in Wisconsin. So I came over here since they are licensed in both. Just briefly, I'm sure everyone has kind of looked at the market changes, a lot more emails with price reductions, definitely slowing down a lot. And so I kind of wanted to talk a little today about starting with listings, being more strategic. So really dialing in on people's expectations. So a lot of sellers are coming out of one of the best sellers markets we've had in a long time. So they're very excited. They assume they're going to sell as quick as their neighbor for as much as their neighbor did. And I'm really trying to work with the sellers right now to have them understand that even the comps I pull are not accurate. Between the rate changes, the economy, what's going on globally, that has an effect on real estate and how people spend their money. So I think being very mindful of that is important, and making sure that the seller's expectations are more realistic. And that being said, also with pricing. So a lot of people come to me about CMAs, and I tell people I'm very conservative in general, but now even more so. Since it's not an accurate reflection, I try to do some calculations with a lender that I work with to show them what this would look like even 6 months ago, right? The rates have gone up almost 2% for some buyers. So that payment difference is important when you're looking at buyer budgets. So setting the listing appointment, after I do a walkthrough, I will do a staging appointment as well. So I think that's key. I used to stage and have a warehouse with furniture and everything, but it is so time consuming that I stopped doing that. And I just hire stagers now and do a consultation. So I cover that, have them go through. And then once I get that back, I also have a better idea of what that seller is going to do. And that takes a lot of it off my plate. Instead of saying, hey, it's really dirty, or you really need to paint, it doesn't come from me. It now comes from that third party. So it kind of removes you from that piece, because that can be an emotional part of the, when the seller is trying to sell, it's very emotional to them. They're tied to the home. They don't always want that criticism. Some people are pretty open, but to avoid that, it's nice to have that third party come in. And once I have an idea of what they're willing to do, if they tell me, no, we're going to sell it just like this, I have a better idea of what I tell them on price. So I try really hard not to give them a price until I have those steps completed. And then we go through and actually look at other comps. Like, do you think your house looks like your neighbor's? And that will start to make them be a little more honest when they have to look through the photos and tell me how their home is similar or different. So after that, I always tell agents, please don't use an iPhone. You might be a great photographer, but it's also another way to have a third party come in, right, and be responsible. So if they don't like photos, you also have someone to not blame, but hold accountable. So photos are first impression. They actually get buyers in the door. You've probably had listings where you go and you're like, well, this looks nothing like the photos. So trying to also be accurate and not over filtered is very important. So I always recommend, very good photographers. There's Spacecrafting. Mill City does a good job, but I will say price point is key. So anything like 500 and over, I try Spacecrafting. 500 or less, Mill City does a pretty good job. I do notice discrepancies with different sized homes and the pricing and photographers. So that is something I do notice. From there, I think marketing is important. So getting it out on social media. I love coming soon when the home is ready. I don't love it when there's one photo or just not enough information. You really, your blast online is your first impression. You're hitting Zillow. There are a lot of people that will just bypass it if it's not what they want or they don't have enough information or photos. So to do a coming soon listing, which I love because you also get a feel for the market. Hey, am I priced too high? I have 0 showings. Or we have, 17 showings lined up over the weekend. We're in a great spot. So getting those up is ideal as long as the seller is willing and ready to get it market ready. From there, I think social media marketing is super important. Getting it in front of people, doing a paid ad. You can do one that's pretty relatively inexpensive. Have it just be local so that it's getting any buyers that are doing a move up, for example, or a first time home buyer that's renting and that goes in their feed. That can really help drive traffic. And open houses I was not doing for quite some time when the market was hot because you'd have it advertised and already be under contract. And that would be disappointing for everyone. But I will say now that it's much slower, it's great to get buyers in, not only that are just looking a little bit, so especially the person hosting can potentially get another buyer, but the buyers that their agents are out of town or they can't get them in right away, sometimes they're able to come and then write an offer from there. So that's been more helpful now. So I don't know what else you
Can
would
I
like me to
ask
cover.
you, I just want to back up a little bit. Will you go over maybe what your, like the process of sitting down with a client, of listing their house? I know you went into a little bit depth. Are you're going to them in person? You said you're walking through the property. What do you have as far as like presentation that you bring with you? Obviously you said you're looking at comparables, so I'm hoping you're bringing an iPad or a computer. Just kind of maybe go over a little bit more details about that, and then we can go into kind of the buyer side then.
I do not do anything the first day I go. So when I go, it's to gather data. I don't want to pull comps before I go, have those in hand. They're not accurate. I don't know what the house looks like. Maybe they finished a basement or added something. And I also don't want to like sway my data collection, if that makes sense. I want to go in and be as accurate as possible. So, and I tell them that up front, like the first appointment, it'll take me 10 to 15 minutes to walk through the home. Then I go back and I pull comps and I get everything ready. And then I have a listing presentation that I will set an appointment to go over. And it will either be via Zoom or if they want me to come back in the house the next day I do. And that's typically when I have my lockbox because usually we're going forward with that. So if I go with the presentation, that's when I can go through, show them comps, show them photos of the neighbor's house, and kind of go from there.
So you're kind of saying to keep an open mind, to not do a ton of research beforehand. So this is interesting to me because we've always been inbred to like get all of your research, make sure you have everything. But it is what you say because you're kind of creating a narrative in your head then of like this is what the house is going to look like, and your expectations are there, and then you walk in. And they could be hoarders. We don't know. When we so I think that's a really valid point, and something that I almost like think about in when with what I do, because then I have to retrain myself to not do that. So you're basically, when you're walking in that 15 minutes that you're there, are you taking any pictures just for your information or?
Yep. I take photos and then I document everything. I mean, even down to like quartz countertops because, your day gets busy, you forget. So I'm looking at finishes, looking at rooms, writing them all down, obviously, each level, what's on each level, because that, again, I will forget if I'm doing a million other things. I will ask them questions like age of HVAC, mechanicals, all that, so that I have that in mind. So when let's say I am doing comps when I get back and I see this one has new roof, new siding, all these things, but theirs are, 30 plus years old. It gives me, I can adjust those comps more accordingly. So I try to take all those notes and have all that down. And even, fully fenced yard, like all those things you don't think about. I try to get all that up front just so I have it.
Then my next question for you would be basically looking at, comparables. I've been trying to tell a lot of agents you don't want to be looking at 6 months ago. You don't even want to be looking at 3 months ago. How are you kind of doing comparables at this point?
So I usually start with 180 days out, which is, typical. And then if I don't have enough, meaning a lot of acreage lots, right? There's less homes in that area. So I either go out a little bit farther, or and if I go out, a quarter mile, then I go half mile. Like I always tell people, like, tighten your bubble as close as you can. And then you're expanding each piece from there until you get enough comps. What's enough? At 6 to 8, I like to see. I think then from there, you're adjusting each one to make it as much like the one that you are listing. And then from there, I have to look at the timing. So if most of these are 3 months ago, I will go back. What were the rates? What was the market like? What was the inventory like? The average showings, if they were 11 showings per month on average in a city, and now this month they're 2, that's a huge market shift. So all of that's in MLS, and that's stuff I take into account when I go back to my sellers to present.
Absolutely. Good information. Just on the seller side of it, I just want to know, what are you hearing as far as objectives from sellers at this point about listing their property? And then maybe some of those answers to those objectives that you're coming back.
So a big one, of course, is rates. Everyone's pretty obsessed right now since it's our big change. And if certain people haven't gone through that yet, then I try to remind them, like, history repeats itself, right? We've been through this, it cycles, it happens. And we also talk about strategy. So obviously pricing is key. And from there, I'll market with lenders. So I'll create flyers to show a rate buy down. And when we do pricing, I'll discuss that. Is 10 grand really that much? Or would you be willing to sell the house if your offer was 10 grand less? They're like, well, yeah, I'd take the offer. So then we discuss, well, what if we sell for full price, but offer the 10K buy down, for example? A lot of people are doing either the 2-to-1 buy down, or just in general, that'll apply to their closing costs so that they can purchase points with their lender. So making sure we talk about all those strategies up front is very important, I think, just to help them know that every obstacle that a buyer has, we can usually find a solution. So that's another big thing that I see missing right now. There's a really terrible wave of no feedback going on. So I had 55 showings on a listing. So if it took me a minimum of 1 minute each time to make a phone call, that's an hour of my time that I spent. I think only 2 people on that one gave me feedback. So I had to call 53 other agents to get feedback, ask them to fill it out. If they wouldn't fill it out, I verbally had the conversation. And this is sometimes even leaving voicemails, calling or texting and emailing, and still not hearing back for a few days. But I kept on, and out of 2 of those people actually wrote offers, because when they had an issue that the buyer had, I talked through it, and then that made them present the offer. So I think that's super important, is following up. It feels annoying sometimes. You're calling and texting people, and sometimes they're grateful. They're like, thank you, I got really busy. I had a bunch of other showings. But not only does it give you something to go back to the seller with, and it's way easier for me to say, well, all of these people said this about the house, so this is probably something we should address. But it also gives you an opportunity to turn those objections into a sale.
No, and I hear you on that end. That is probably one of the toughest things because I use that again with leverage with any of my listings is really, really going, here's the feedback that we're getting. So either we need to fix whatever's happening or we need to adjust it and go accordingly. But that's the leverage that you do have. So even as real estate agents, we should always know that we should be leaving feedback no matter what. I mean, showing time does give you that reminder. And I think if you have it set correctly, it's going to continue to keep reminding you. So,
Yeah, like 4 times, I think so.
yeah. And I am very big on that. No matter what the feedback is, just it's honest.
Mhm.
And that's helpful in any listing and the market that we're going to be, walking into in the future as well. So, I just
Mhm.
want to ask before we kind of move on to the buyer side, where would you say that your biggest marketing is right now? I know you had said you do a lot of social media. Like, are you using Facebook, Instagram? What are you using right now?
Yeah, I use Facebook and Instagram. So they are easy because you can post to Instagram and it'll automatically go to Facebook. So it's kind of a one and done.
Okay. And then also, everybody, I always say that even on my listings, I say, we automatically post to Zillow, Realtor.com, but
Yeah.
your clients don't know that. They don't know that that automatically happens. So I always say I use that as a tool to go, I post in all of these different places to make sure that your
Yeah.
listing is there. So I mean, you could use because it's going out to all the other brokerages as well. You can say that.
Yes. And
Um,
I do put that in the listing appointment just so that people understand. Like I just remind people we do this stuff every day. The sellers do not. So even stating the obvious is important, right? That when I list to MLS and it goes to Zillow, Realtor.com, all of these websites. I have a personal website for your house that I also link in my bio for social media, etc. Just listing the obvious, which it sounds crazy, but it's very helpful. People get excited. They're like, "Oh, the other person didn't say that." And I'm like, "Well, everyone does it, right? It's the same tool we all use, but they don't know that." So it's really important to just kind of go over all that with them. And that's why it's nice to have that listing presentation so that you can make sure you hit all those points.
Absolutely. I just want to touch briefly on the buyer side before we kind of open up the questions. Can you maybe go through your buyer side process of what you're working with and how do you meet with them? What's that process look like?
Yeah. So I with buyers, I will only work if they're pre-approved. I get a lot of people that want to go see houses. They find something online, they just want to go take a peek. And that can be tough, especially when you're newer and starting out. You want to help everyone. And I would love to do that. But the busier you get, you realize I won't have the time to walk everyone through. So I really discuss their wants, their needs, and get them in touch with a lender. Once they are pre-approved, then I do sit down with them. We go over the process, and I kind of have just like a listing presentation. It's like a buyer presentation. So we go over that. We go over the links to the documents that they have to sign so that they're comfortable with them before they, go through to sign electronically. And then I like to go over how they like to communicate. Do you prefer text? Do you want me to call you every time? Do you like emails? If I emailed, you also want me to text that I've emailed because they don't check it a lot. So we go over that. We discuss the buyer portal, like One Home and how to use it. And then also the apps. So some people like HomeSpotter or the MLS Touch, I believe it is, and just going through that so they know how to look for houses on their own and they are able to send them to me or message me in there.
What are your objectives that you get when you say, I want you to get pre-approved, and educating them through the process? Do you get any kind of pushback from that?
Um, no, not really.
Okay.
I think most of them are pretty motivated. If they're not, then they're just in my pipeline. Like I use Chime and I will just continue to follow up until they're more motivated.
Okay. I think that's probably the biggest thing, is because people think, and I'm the same way. You have to be pre-approved, and if you're not, here's 3 lenders. I will connect you with them.
Yep.
But I do think that people do not understand the process of it, and that's our job to educate them, because we really shouldn't be walking them through properties unless they are pre-approved, because they might not qualify.
And I do, if they ask like, oh, can we start looking while I'm in the process, I'll remind them that some sellers even state pre-approved buyers only. It's right in the notes. And I tell them, like, if you had an open house and you just got your 3 kids, your dog, all these people out of the house, you were so excited for your showing, and then the agent wrote back, sorry, they're not approved, they're just looking. You'd be so upset, right? As a seller, it's a disappointment. You thought you had a potential buyer, you don't. So when I phrase it that way, they're a little more open, like, yeah, I'd be annoyed. And then it's just helpful. They understand, yeah, that makes sense. And I remind them, if you do like it and they call for highest and best, or they have 3 other offers and you can't write one, that's also frustrating. So being ready so that you're not super excited, but can't pull the trigger.
Yes, 100%. I know that we only have about like 10 minutes left, so I want to open it up to the floor to see if there's any questions with what we went over today. And then we will definitely let her go, because I know she's got an appointment at 9:30, and our time is our most valuable thing. So I'm going to open it up to anybody who has any questions. If you want to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask.
Well, if nobody else has anything to say, I think one of the things I know that I've noticed is that there's a lot of people that have one foot in the water in our industry and our company specifically because of the type of plan we offer. And so, I always tell people it's pretty important. Either you want to sell real estate full time or you want to sell it part time, because there are a lot of people that make an extra 25 grand a year just kind of tripping into sales here and there. But you definitely have made real estate a part of your life. So when you have your Facebook and your Instagram and things like that, I know those are tools that help you move your product and sell yourself, but you basically have put yourself all in and are committed to doing what you're doing. And I appreciate you coming on to this 9 o'clock call and sharing what you do also, because, it's just one more thing that endorses your professionalism. I appreciate having you be a
Yeah.
part of this group.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys inviting me.
Alicia, do you ever buy leads at all?
I do not, and mostly for preference. For a while, I'd say like my 2nd and 3rd year, even some of I wouldn't purchase them, but they'd be more random, like messaging me, but I didn't know them. I noticed a pattern that they were more tire kicking and sometimes almost unsafe, if that makes sense. So a lot of the leads that I would get through that type of marketing, they did not turn over to like good quality leads. So I really try to network and build that base. So I always tell people, like, your first 2 years, just don't expect anything. If you get something, that's amazing, but the growth will really start, I think, year 2 and 3 for most people, and you'll build that networking. And I, tell people, like, without being obnoxious, make sure people know you're an agent. I mean, it sounds obvious, but whether you're posting on social media, that's the easiest way without making it too, you don't want to be like a car salesman, right? But you want people to think of you when they think of real estate. And sometimes it's as simple as I would help manage rental properties or give advice on those things, because then 2 years later, when they're ready to buy, they're like, oh, I thought about you because you helped with whatever, or you recommended your painter, and I remember you said a bunch of your clients liked him, so I thought I'd call you because we're going to go buy a house now. So I think just being in front of people and giving valuable content. Sometimes it's market trends, design trends, anything that can actually give some value, because people aren't buying a house every week, right? It's every couple of years, but you want to stay in front of them. So I think it's really important when you're not selling and you're not providing service for them, they still want to go to you for value, if that helps.
Though I think that's probably the number one question that we get from agents is probably, like, how do I get leads? How do I get this? And yes, you can absolutely go out and buy leads, but I always say it costs you something to get something. So that's the hardest part in it. And also the fact that, like you said, putting it out on social media just to say, hey, I make my living by selling real estate. People laugh at that. I mean, they literally, but they're like, they'll remember like, oh, I have to reach out, or I have to send a friend who said, oh, I'm looking for a house.
Yeah. And that's why I think just providing more value is key, because I'll talk to everyone and I'm like, how many agents do you know? Right? Your own family will know family members that are agents, friends that are agents. What's going to make them come to you? Your knowledge of the market, your professionalism, and the value you provide. So if you can't sell them a house right now, what can you do that is valuable? And that's what I think. And everyone's is different, everyone's little, I don't know, trying to think of the word, but everyone has something they can provide, right? Whether they're really good at design or they go through, I see a lot of agents that will just go through open houses and they'll just show different houses all day long, but they're on social media. They don't even have a single sale. I mean, you can look them up, but I'm like, good for you. You are looking very active to everyone that's watching, and you're showing something. You're showing a lot of houses that people get to walk through. And that might entice somebody to say, that was a really cute house. Maybe we should consider moving up. And they might reach out to you because they see you doing that. A lot of people will go through trends, like paint colors and wood tones and what's new and what's going on, in design. And that's what they'll post every so often. Some people do market trends. What's the market doing? What are rates doing? But I think it's being consistent is key, and providing something that makes people continue to watch. Otherwise, and I'll also remind people, you do not need to have a lot of followers. There are a lot of lurkers. They won't like your stuff. They won't comment. They won't interact. But then you'll see this, they'll send you a message saying, hey, I've been watching and I just saw that last one you posted, and, we're actually going to buy. So do you have time to meet with us? And so it reminds me even like, hey, I don't need 10,000 followers. They're watching. So just staying, relevant and being in front of them and providing some value will actually give you a lot more buyers for free. You don't have to pay. I've never paid. Zillow, people ask about paying for that. And I'm like, Chris Lindahl and them, they're paying $40,000 plus a month. So am I going to pay them $1,200 a month or $2,000 a month? No, I'm still not going to show up enough to have any of that come back. So it's just not worth it.
That is the hard part because of the fact that, yeah, we're small in comparison. But I think if you just use your sphere and you consistently put out good branding and good messages, it will pay off. The key thing I think that's hard right now, and even in the market that we're doing, is I'm even saying to my sellers, patience. Days on market is longer. It's the same thing as being a real estate agent. It's patience and waiting for it to come. And either you can wait or you can't. And that's how you know. But the statistic is every 4 minutes, a real estate agent leaves the industry, and we're losing 30%. So
that's also a place for everyone that's still here to take advantage, right? So
yes.
That's less competition for you. Another thing I always hear that I wanted to touch on is people will say, well, I should be with Edina Realty or EXP or one of these big names. And people sometimes don't even know who my broker is, right? They're like, oh, what's that? I'm like, that's my broker. I'm with NRG. They don't even know why, because you are your own brand. You don't need to be with a big name. They don't call up Edina Realty and ask them for an agent, right? They call the individual agent. They message that person, they email them. So I remind people, like, you're your own brand. So making sure you're in front of people you can be with any broker. So as long as you get the support you need, you know, are happy, you don't need to go spend a ton of money, which is what's great about NRG, right? We have the same tools as all of the other people, and we don't have to split that commission. So I think that's really important. Like, brand yourself, get yourself out there, and you don't need to be with a big name.
Very well said. Been there, done that. So, it's a good learning lesson, but again, it's all about branding. So, I know your time is valuable. Does anybody else have any quick questions before we transition out? All right. Well, if anybody wants to find you, they can find you on Facebook or Instagram. Yep. I do know that. So definitely, I would say go and follow, because she's got great content on there. We will let.
All right. Sorry, I'm losing a little bit. But yeah, feel free to email me, call me, text me if you have any questions. I'm happy to help. So.
Awesome.
Thank you, Alicia.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for the great information. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Appreciate it.
All right. Does anybody have any listing or buyer needs before we get done with today that they would like to bring up, or have any questions and for NRG or anything like that?
I do have one question.
Okay.
I do have a property which is not an MLS property, which I would be representing for the transaction. So do I still need to pay the admin fee for NRG?
Yeah, because the brokerage is basically covering you for your liability, even on that property. So you still need to send in the compliance paperwork and everything in that way. And it still does need to be taken care of, because we still legally have to review it.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Can I ask and you don't have to answer this, but can I ask what the situation was that you're not putting it on the MLS?
It was an auction property.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Appreciate that. Does anybody else have any questions or any listings or anything coming up that they need help with?
I did have a question about a listing that I got coming up. He wants to sell the property as is, and he wants to sell all the furniture, all the fixtures, every possible thing in the house he wants to sell with the property. Have you guys had any of those in the past? I mean, do you just put that in the agent notes that selling it as everything? I mean, the whole thing. Is there success in that? I mean, I don't know.
So Tim, I'm going to tell you, I've done this quite a bit. I am going to tell you, price point really does matter, because is the stuff in the house valuable or no to you?
I don't. It's just regular furniture. I mean, it's basically an estate. It's his mother, who is basically in her own home hospice care, and it's not looking good right now. I mean, and he just wants to get rid of the house, furniture. I mean, literally down to the dishes and silverware. I mean, really. I mean,
Yep.
and I just think it's maybe a wrong approach, but maybe just get rid of the stuff first and then sell the house. I mean, that's why I'm looking for ideas.
What I would tell you is maybe talk to somebody who does estate sales first. You know, if it is stuff that you can kind of downsize and whittle out, if you have enough time for that. Otherwise, if you don't have enough time for an estate sale, I would definitely then just put it in the agent remarks as this is an estate and they are selling everything with the property as is, and make sure that you have that as is addendum signed by the seller already and put that in the disclosures.
Wouldn't the buyer have to sign that? I mean, not the seller.
Yeah.
I mean, the as is addendum.
Yep, but you have your seller sign it first and you put it in the disclosures, and then the buyer's agent then knows that you're selling it as is, and you're asking for that form to come back with that.
So there'll be no repairs done to the house either. I mean, because they don't want to do any of that either. I mean, it's literally. I've never
The
had
best
one like
thing you
that.
can do, Tim, is disclose it all in the agent remarks. Put it in the agent
Yeah.
remarks, like they are not wanting to do any, the most open and honest you can be, but it's going to be all about pricing it. Price it right, so it will move, so it's not sitting.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, they want, top-notch price as well, obviously. And I said, well, when you're going to be selling it as is with everything, it's going to affect your price a little bit. There again, if you just want to get rid of it, yeah, sure. But I mean, if you want to get top dollar, I would definitely, move the stuff out or whatever first and get it staged and, go from there. But we've all run into sellers where you can only tell them so much.
Yeah, I think it's just giving them those options, Tim. Like I can maybe get you this price if we do these steps. I
Yeah.
can, if not, these are the steps that we have to take if you want to do it this way. So I think it's giving those options, but being very open about those options. And again, we're going into October. This again isn't something that you want to play around with because of timing of the year as well. So there's a couple different factors there. But yeah, I'll reach out to you afterwards because again, I have done quite a bit of this. And I know some estate sale people, and we can talk about where this one is located and maybe get some people to come in and help with that.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, if you can't reach me, just send me an email too. So
Yeah. No, that sounds good.
all right, thank you.
Not a problem. Does anybody else have anything?
What happened to Amy? Jill, what happened to Amy?
She's still helping out. She's just got some stuff going on right now. So we're basically kind of tag teaming it right now, and bringing in some new ideas, and just kind of helping. But she will definitely be at our NRG meet and greet on the 26th. If anybody can make it, please go RSVP on the Facebook page. So that's the 26th. Go check that out. I was going to let you guys know to make sure that you are looking for any announcements on Sweet Assist. The calendar and Sweet Assist is going to be updated. And then also, again, that NRG Connect on Facebook. There's a lot of information on there. If you need any help with anything, you can always ask a question through there. And somebody's always there to answer and connect with you as well. So.
Amy's coordinating a CE class with Structure Tech, so hopefully either in the next couple of weeks or a few weeks we have a free CE class coming up.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And I want to just say, Liz made a comment in the note section. Staging is overrated personally, she said. Again, I think it's a give and take on what the property is that you're looking for. I just had a listing in Bloomington where we did the virtual staging. And that went very well. Again, I did disclose it in the agent remarks that, this is virtually staged, just so that way people don't get that impression. But that is out there. And then she has a client looking to rent a home to run a group home business out of 4 bedrooms or more. Anyone know of any options? Liz, where are you looking in that area if you're still on here?
Technically Minnetonka, St. Louis Park, but it's a tough, they want western suburbs, ideally.
Okay.
Not in the city of Minneapolis or Brooklyn Center.
Okay.
And then when
4
you guys,
bedrooms.
yeah, ideally 4-bedroom rambler, right? Because it's a group home, so they like easy access for the clients. Finding that there are houses for rent, but the landlords aren't allowing a business out of it, which I understand. Or an investor who wants to buy a property specifically knowing that this client wants to run a group, an option. If you have investors looking for that, it's a pretty decent ROI that way. Also, we got that event invite, and then I clicked a button on Sweet Assist, but I didn't help me like RSVP to it. Like I didn't understand how through Sweet Assist, did anybody else have success? I didn't understand how that worked.
It's not RSVPing on Sweet Assist, and we'll make sure we clarify that. Thank you for the feedback. That is always good to have. The RSVP is actually on Facebook, on the Facebook Connect. Sweet Assist just kind of sent it out. We'll put a link in there to the Facebook RSVP too, and we'll get that sent out to you guys.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And regarding the 26th meeting, I do have a friend who is not an agent, but is interested to come into this field. Is it okay for me to bring that person, or is it only for us agents?
Randy, do you want to grab that question?
Well, I mean, it's primarily education for our agents. What does this person do?
He's a student.
Is he trying to be getting into real estate or something?
Yes, he's planning on taking the training to get into get the license. So he wants to look into
You
that.
might as well come and see. Maybe you can learn a little bit. I don't know. You know, everybody that has a license, the information that they're going to receive will be more relevant, but I guess it'll give them a taste of what kind of happens in our industry. So yeah, I suppose bring them along.
Yeah.
Just RSVP so we can kind of keep manage of our head count.
Okay, sure. And that's what I told him. You come and see how my side of the world looks, so
Yeah.
that he's more gravitated to get the license sooner.
Yeah, so either get involved or run, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions? Anything else that we need to address this morning?
With Tim's property, Tim, if you also want to send it out, there are investors and wholesalers that might be interested and make it worth it family too. So if you want to send that out to agents, you know, like tell us it's as is and blah, blah, blah. Maybe we have people that want it to like, I've sold plenty of properties
Okay.
as is. I think there's a market for it. And, but I agree with what you're saying though, like tell them that obviously to get the full market, you figure it out and you clean it and blah, blah, blah. But there's such a lack of inventory. They can still get a decent number.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great neighborhood. I mean, it's over by St. Kate's University up of Cleveland and St. Paul. And I mean, it's just a wonderful property. I mean, I just think if you want to get the most out of it, I mean, I would do the extra steps, but you know, there again, it's up to them.
Yeah, and I think we also need to acknowledge though that like every seller is different, right? Like what is their motivation is most important, right? Is the money the motivation or the lack of hassle? Because by the time you clean it out and whatever, you know, like we're having a junk removal company come to our investment property today and it's $1,000 just to remove all the junk, but that's only one truck full. So imagine if they have 2 truckfuls, that's $2,000, then cleaning, then, you know, maybe fixing a few things up. Is that really, you know, is that something, some people have a really hard time just watching their stuff that they thought was important get thrown away,
Right.
you know, especially if you've ever dealt with.
I think it's just the convenience to just to get it done with. I mean, that's what I think it is.
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
You know, if it's not a lot of money, it's probably not an issue, but if it's a lot of money value in these extra products, it could affect the appraisal. Remember, the banks don't lend on personal property.
Yeah, but you can do a personal property addendum and it gets rid of all that. Just a simple personal property addendum that says the lines that everything within the home is being left behind, but there is no monetary value to it. That's not that hard.
That'd be a good way to do it.
Yeah. Which, you know, some agencies require a personal property addendum for everything, even if it's an empty house, because they technically want to say that about the appliances. Some brokerages lean towards that. So, but you're right. I mean, but appraisers understand like an as-is sale with an estate and family and junk. And I think the biggest thing in the end is really focusing on whatever your client needs. Because I think there are agents that only believe there's one way to sell a house. And I think we obviously want to offer our clients whatever they need to meet their personal goals.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree. I mean, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
force my
No, I agree,
opinions on
Tim.
anybody. I'm just basically gonna just, spell it out for them, and here's ABC, you choose which one you want to go, and then we'll do it.
Yeah, no, that's true. I get it.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're working hard to help them. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
Perfect. All right. Well, like we said, time is valuable, so I appreciate you all coming on here. Next week we do have Doug, who is on here. He is an appraiser, and he's going to go over some updates in that world of what is going on. So we will have that next week. Again, just watch Sweet of Swiss, and also watch Facebook for those updates and who's going to be speaking. So thank you guys so much for your time. And if you have any other questions, reach out again to the admin staff at NRG, and have a great week.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.